So, start at the beginning. This is a pump boat, also a jet boat. A steam engine in the period mostly pumped water out of mines. That's what it did. It ran a pump. So the fact that Rumsey had this idea of making a pump work a boat would have seemed to many, many people to be just common sense. So we have here a steam pump. The boiler, we have the steam cylinder, we have water cylinder below, we have condenser. And we have sort of hidden behind the condenser a valve, a main control valve. So what happens is that steam comes out of the boiler, goes into here, the steam cylinder, pushes up a piston. That raises up. When it gets to the top, it flips this thing, and that flips the valve. That connects this condenser. The steam goes into the condenser, it collapses, it's cooled. That creates a vacuum on top of a vacuum in the cylinder, and so air pressure sitting on top of the piston pushes it down. That pushes down the piston in the water cylinder as well. So you raise water up, now you've pushed it down, a valve in the underneath here flips, and that water is pushed out a trunk line underneath here, all the way out the back of the boat. And then, of course, when it gets to the bottom of the stroke, the valve flips again, and steam goes in. And then there's a line going from the trunk into the condenser, so that as the boat is pumped along, water comes out of the trunk line and goes into the condenser and then through and over the edge to keep this thing cool. And if that's not possible to do because the boat isn't going fast yet, you have crew members picking up buckets of water, dumping them into the condenser, and if you don't have the feed water pump going yet, you can have a manual feed pump here to put water into the boiler. Like I said, it's a pretty simple steam engine, as steam engines in the 18th century go. It only occupies about 4 feet on a side. So this is tiny. Most steam engines, this is about 1 horsepower. Most 1 horsepower steam engines in the period of the 18th century would fill up a 2-car garage. Not small things. The fact that you had this very small engine of 1 horsepower put together by this guy who had never built a steam engine before, it's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Well, I'm not sure how many he had. It seems as though Rumsey only had about 2 or 3 people, 3 crew running his boat. He had himself, his brother-in-law Charles Morrow, and 1 other maybe. And then he had a couple of women from the town sitting on the boat. And we're not sure why. One thought is that the women weren't going to be technically minded and keep notes about all his inventions. Other possibility is that he thought that it would be a way of showing his boat was very safe. It's a little shorter than the original. This project was started by J. Hurley back in the early 80s, and it was built in the back of his store. And so this is about as big as the boat could be. The original was a little longer than this. I'm not sure how much longer. The engine, however, is as close to the original as we can get. We could get this thing going again. We looked into it a couple of years back because we wanted to make a recording of the sound of the thing. But it would take some work. There's probably a couple of leaks that have opened up in the strip planking of the hull. wanted to do some cleaning. But yeah, with a little, a little more work, we could get it out there in the river. Well, the first few years, we put it in a good bit. But after about 10 years or so, I think we all started getting quite tired of it because it was a lot of work. It's a lot of work to make the boat go. The boat goes only sporadically before you have to take something apart and clean it, put it back together again, or unstick something. As we learn more about how the boat works, we realize that, we've pretty much figured this out. It's not really that much fun a boat to work. It's a fun boat to look at, but at the heart of it is this engine and propulsion system that really Rumsey had never quite worked the boats out. And we couldn't do anything to improve that, really. We made it safer. We had to make it safer. But we couldn't really change the way the thing worked. And so after a number of years, we basically said, we should make this as static exhibits.